Okay, question you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does davening for someone who's sick do?
Good question. All right, so I have to mention that we have talked about this in the past, and I have I don't know if it was last year or the year before, I gave a new approach to davening for others that I'm not going to summarize here, but I encourage you to check out because it was a new approach. So what does davening for others do? So first of all, in terms of the principles of hashgachah, without explaining how hashgachah works, but just in terms of like the principles that we have, just like relying on Torah, on like the Masorah, the way it works is that your tefillah can only address your own needs, right? So the reason why God listens to your tefillah about other people, and if you want to know what it means for God to listen to tefillah, listen to the 9-part series that we did from February through Pesach. Then for God to listen to your tefillah about other people, it's going to be based on the fact that they are part of your needs, right? That their well-being affects you, whether emotionally, practically, whatever. And so I like the way I view that is there's you and your personal needs, and then there's your circle of needs, things outside of yourself that affect you. And in order for the tefillah to work, it has to be about something that is in your circle of needs. Now, if you are on a very high level, you can be mispala for someone who you don't even know, presumably to a tzaddik, then even the existence of like someone in Klal Yisrael who's suffering is gonna move them in a way that like they can be part of their needs. But for most of us, then it has to be someone who's like to some extent in our circle of needs. So that's just like the first principle of hashgachah, of how it works. The other thing though is just I refuse to boil down the last 9 shiurim on this to try to like make it into a simple thing. So I'm not even going to do that. I'm just going to say the nafkamina in terms of this issue is that being this palel for refuah for someone else should prompt you to do everything in your power to bring about that refuah, because you are an agent of Ratzon Hashem, and all of the descriptions of Hashem are meant to be taken in a v'halachah b'drachav sense. So when we say rofei chol basar mafli lasos, or rofei chol le'amo Yisrael, or kol ha'machala asher samti b'mitzrayim lo sim alecha ki ani Hashem rofecha, all of those are supposed to prompt us to emulate the Maaseh Hashem and to do what we can for refuah. And we have to also remember it's refuahs hanefesh v'refuahs haguf, and the refuahs hanefesh is stated first. And if you listen to the very first Sunday shiur I gave in yeshiva on Refuah, where we look at the source of the psukim that we base Refuah on, it's Yirmiyahu talking about psychological anguish. Rafeinu Hashem v'nerafeh comes from the pasuk of Rafeini Hashem v'erafeh, I think, and then the second one also is about Yirmiyahu himself. So there's a lot you can do. I mean, there's a lot physically that is not in your control, but there's a lot you can do to promote refuah hanefesh, and in many cases refuah haguf as well. Like you can help out around, whether through money or through around the house if it's someone who you're interacting with or whatever. So like all of this should prompt you by davening. I mean, you're saying that it's in Hashem's hands, which is true, but when you say that, you're doing an actual hispalel, like reflexive self-judgment to see what is in Hashem's hands and what is in my hands. And then God's not going to respond to your tefillah if you don't actually do anything, like it's not magic. So I think practically speaking, I think so the takeaways are, it has to be in the sense that this is part of your needs and you're turning to Hashem for that. It has to be recognizing what's in your control and what's not. And it has to be a call to action. Your tefillah should be a call to action. Yeah. Okay. And then there's other stuff that I mentioned in the other shiurim, but I'm not going to summarize those. Yeah.
Just about the psychological English.
Yeah.
I guess could you just expand more on that, because that's like novel to me. Okay.
Let me just see if I can find Refuah. That is not the most common. Well, I forgot when this is before I was in. Let me pause this for 1 second here. Pause recording. Yeah, so we're not going to go through the whole shiur, but I just want to see here. So, okay, so that's the translation. Okay, yeah. So Rafa'inu Hashem v'nerafe Hoshi'inu v'nivashea kisi hilasenu ata comes from Rafa'ini Hashem v'erafe Hoshi'ini v'ivashea kisi hilasi ata. So Yirmiyahu was saying this about himself, and then the second one was the other one that was relevant. The Ha'ale Refuah Shlema l'chol makosenu comes from Ki a'ale arucha lach. I will bring up a cure for you. Umi makosayich erpa'ech. So you look at that first thing with Hashem v'nerafe, and the pshat in tefillah is heal us and save us from an illness, right? But then if you look at the context in Yirmiyahu, he says, heal me Hashem and I will be healed, save me and I will be saved, for you are my praise. And then he goes on and says, behold, they say to me, okay, these are the Klal Yisrael who are like accusing him of being a false Navi. Where's the word of Hashem? Let us see it come true. That's a taunt. I was not anxious to become a shepherd for you, and I did not desire a day of distressful prophecies. You know this. The words of my lips were directed to your presence. May you not cause me dismay, for you are my shelter on a day of harm. Let my pursuers be shamed, and let me not be shamed. Let them be dismayed, but let not me be dismayed. Bring upon them a day of harm and devastate them with a double disaster. So ostensibly, it has nothing to do with illness, right? I mean, the context has ostensibly nothing to do with illness. And Radak even says, heal me. Yirmiyahu requested healing from the wound and the pain. As he said earlier, why has my pain become everlasting and my wound acute? And this pain and wound, as we explained here, refers to his being degraded and cursed. Okay. And then the second thing, and then that pasuk says, you know, Hashem, remember me, think of me, and avenge me of my pursuers. In your patience with them, do not take my life. Know that I have borne disgrace for you. Okay, so he goes on. Okay, and then he says also that with another type of joy I do not rejoice, namely the bodily, meaning psychological joy, which I sit in their group. So he's talking about feeling excluded. That was my depiction of Yirmiyahu. That people think that he's like this old man, but he was really like a young guy who was rejected by society, so like an emo kid. All right. So the pshat is Yirmiyahu is asking Hashem to heal him and save him from the psychological suffering caused by social disgrace, social antagonism, and social isolation from his fellow Jews who resented him for rebuking them. Okay, I'm going to just do one more quick overview, and then we'll try to put together an understanding. Pshat in tefillah is completely heal us from all sickness. Context. For thus said Hashem to the Jewish people, your injury is grave and your wound is acute. No doctor judges your wound to have a cure. Medications or remedy do not exist for you. All your loved ones have forgotten you. They do not inquire after you. This one's more relevant to actual illness. For I struck you the blow of an enemy with a cruel reproof because of your many sins, your transgressions that were so numerous. How can you cry out over your injury, over the pain that is grave, your pain that is grave? It is because of your many sins, your transgressions that were so numerous that I inflicted these upon you. Nevertheless, all who devoured you shall themselves be devoured. All who oppressed you will all go into captivity. Those who trampled you will be trampled, and all who despoiled you I shall deliver to become spoils. For I will bring up a cure for you. I will heal you from your wounds, the word of Hashem. For they called you discarded, saying she is still, no one cares about her. And he says, so the Radak explains that this is talking about all your loved ones have forgotten you. Assyria and Egypt, whom you went to for help, they have forgotten you, like your allies. And he says, and my father and master of blessed memory explained all of your loved ones have forgotten you. In relation to the metaphor of disease, saying it is normal human behavior for the loved ones of the sick person to come and visit him, but if they see that his illness is so severe that he is about to die, the bad people among his loved ones will give up hope and will neither visit him nor inquire after him. But you, all of your loved ones have forgotten you, both the bad and the good, and they were right to judge your illness as fatal, since he dealt you the blow of an enemy's sword. And so the pshat in the Psukim is Hashem promises to heal and save Bnei Israel from the psychological suffering caused by social disgrace, social antagonism, and social isolation from their allies on account of the destruction caused by their own sins. So you have to listen to the rest of this year to figure out how we unify this into the rest of the Psukim and make this actually about Refuah. But the context to be thinking about is this feeling of abandonment. And there is this feeling when you are in any vulnerable position, but especially when you're sick and like you are outside of your normal social realm, there is a feeling of like a fear of being abandoned or a fear of being, like discarded, and anything you can do to like address that. And that amplifies the suffering. And I believe what the rest of the shiur was doing was saying how the transitions into prompting tshuva, I think, or something like that. But I don't remember it. It was 3 years ago. Yeah, I need to review it. This is making me realize I need to review it. Okay, good question though. Yeah. Okay, next question. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So Avraham Avinu was promised like a large legacy, like multitudes of children. Offspring.
Yeah.
after he's dead.
Right.
What's the good in that? Why is it a good promise?
Right. So that's a good question.
Especially given Koheles, like a legacy means nothing.
Right. So I'm not going to answer based on any particular of the Mefarshim. So this is just based on my own understanding. Is that what Koheles is talking about is a legacy as a kiyum in my ego. Like I know I'm going to die, and therefore I want a like a part of myself to continue on, so that I can partake of the fantasy pleasure while I'm still alive of like me living forever, right? And I think when we had those early Koheles shiurim, I think I gave the example of my physics teacher in high school was I believe he had a PhD in art and also in like what do you call when you make stuff for space? Astro engineer, something I don't know. So he helped design like I think the International Space Station or something like that. So he told us, I don't remember the context. He told us that his dream would be to take a piece of his art that he made and launch it into space, so it would be out there forever. That's pure ego, because you're not going to be able to enjoy that. So in contrast, what Avraham wanted is Avraham recognized that the derech Hashem of Yichud Hashem and Chesed Tzedakah Mishpat is an objective good, and that's what he devoted his whole life to. And it is Ratzon Hashem that all human beings live in that way, and therefore Hashem promised him that this is not going to die with you. The good that you accomplished is going to continue and grow, and there will exist in the world like an entire nation that has those values. And so it's not based on him like valuing this because, this is my accomplishment. It's that this is what I gave my whole life for, and I don't want this to die with me, and it's going to continue in the world. And I think the best example of this, I don't know the best, but like definitely a good example of this is Moshe Rabbeinu in what appears to be a very immature rant in B'Ha'alosecha. So Moshe Rabbeinu is very patient, right, throughout many of Klal Yisrael's tribulations, but then once they Yud Aleph, thank you. That's after the Sefer break. We quoted these psukim yesterday, right? By Yibn Soharon, or 2 days ago, right? Scattering of the enemies. I don't know. It was in Wednesday night. Because the Sefer Bamidbar gets bad after that, right? So much so that Chazal say it's a new Sefer. There's a shita that there's 7 Sfarim in Chumash, right? So this is when several bad things happen, but then the main thing is they want meat, right? So then Moshe Rabbeinu says what again seems very extreme, okay? So Moshe heard the people crying for their families, each man at the opening of his tent, and Hashem's wrath flared exceedingly, and in the eyes of Moshe it was bad. V'yomer Moshe el Hashem. So Moshe says to Hashem, Lama hare osa la'avdecha? Why did you do evil to your servant? Okay, so he's seemingly blaming Hashem. Okay, V'lama lo matzasi chen be'einecha? Why did I not find favor in your eyes? Hold on. Okay, I emailed Rabbi Nevesky yesterday about something else, and he emailed me back and he said, see if you notice anything that changed in the text of Tanakh. I think what changed is Aleph. I think they are now highlighting Shva Naz. That's great. I think that's bolded. Be'einecha. L'sumas masa kol ha'am hazeh alai. Hey, Anochi. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to tell him. All right, good. I've wanted this for so long. I mean, I didn't request this, but I've wanted this for so long. Okay, because I don't know the rules. I know it by intuition.
The word shvat doesn't have it bolded.
Yeah, me'od, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Anochi harisi es kol ha'am. Did I conceive of this entire people? Im Anochi yeliditihu. Did I give birth to them? Ki somar Eli, such that you should tell me sa'ihu b'chekecha. I'm not sharing the screen. Now everyone can see the glory of the Nikudos. So did I give birth to this people, or such that you should say to me to bear them in your bosom? Kasher yisah ominas hayonek, like a nursemaid carries the nursling, the kid. Al ha'adama asher nishbati l'osav mi'ayin li basar l'seis l'chol ha'amazeh kiyivko alai lemora tanal lanu basar v'nochela. Where am I going to get all this meat to feed these people, to give to these people, that they're crying about me, saying, give us meat and we'll eat it? Lo uchal vadi anochi levadi l'seis kol ha'amazeh ki chavri meni. I cannot bear this people alone. They're too much for me. Now here's the part that I wanted to get to. V'im kacha at osali. If you're going to do this to me, hargini naharo, kill me. Okay. Im matasi chen beinach. If I found favor in your eyes, ve'al ere barasi. Don't let me see my state of badness. Okay, so it sounds very extreme, right? Especially that last part where he says he literally asked God to kill him, right? So I think it's Sforno. Let's see. Come on, Sforno, don't let me down. Yeah. No. Yeah. Hargini na harog, kill me, imatasi chen be'enacha, kidei shetucha limnos acherim, so that you can appoint others, sh'al yadam tihan hagas am shlema, who can lead the people in a better way. Kamosh amruzal al Shmuel shemes kodem yamav kidei shetamod malchus beis David. Ve'al ebrasi, and don't let me see my badness, biras chesron hahanhaga hamasubeves biglali, in the deficiencies of leadership that came about on my because of me. Kizeh yihi kasha alai min hamavis. This would be worse to me than death. So I mean, you have to learn through the whole sugya, but basically Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, all I care about is Bnei Israel, and evidently I've done a bad job leading them. That's what his theory is, and he's saying that I would it's not, why can't he just ask God to like appoint another leader and not kill him?
Because then it's like he was the leader, and then like
it's going to create like no one can like govern the people while Moshe is still alive. So he's basically saying, I'm willing to give up my life for the sake of Klal Yisrael, to continue. And this is like lahavdil elaf havdalos. The example in Umus Ha'olam is Socrates saying, I'm willing to be put to death at the hands of Athens with an unjust din in order to preserve the system, and that's also the idea of misal kiddush shame, So it's like so not about their ego; it's about the good that they want to exist in the world, and they're so attached to that they're willing to even give up their lives. Yeah.
So would the same type of idea apply to like Yaakov, who says to be buried with his fathers? Because that also seems to be.
You mean the location of the burial? Is that what you're asking about? Yeah. So the location of the burial is an interesting. I think that's a different consideration. I don't know that well enough to be able to give a shot on that. Okay. Yeah. Rabbi Fader gave a good explanation, but I can't remember if he did it in a shiur or if it was at a Shabbos meal. So I can't reference you to the specific thing. But it was in the context of explaining the idea of God making tunnels for the tzaddikim to walk through, to pop up in Eretz Yisrael, but then if you're not a tzaddik, you're going to roll through them and it's going to be painful. And there he said, I remember the idea of that, which was that, or at least the essence of the idea, which was that, what's the idea of being buried in Eretz Yisrael? So while you are, again, this is not about Yaakov Avinu specifically, but about for us, like why should a person want to be buried in Eretz Yisrael? So, and I think it had something to do with the fact that, like, actually, I'm not going to try to say it. It's too long ago. I don't want to botch the idea.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. You have any? Okay. Yeah, Isaac.
So, what is there something beneficial a person can make out of when there's like coincidences in what they're learning, where like multiple things are coinciding?
Yeah.
Like the example that for me is I happen to have been learning Mishnah Nigayim because of like a CM that someone's trying to do. So
and it happened to be that Parshas Tazri Masorah showed up. Yeah.
Yeah. And also I'm starting learning with Rusa about the mitzvah to for the Masorah to be like to announce that he's coming.
Yeah.
And like that was also this week. So like is there any like is there anything like way that you could like use that somehow? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, yes. That's it. So, okay, hold on just a second. I have to make a monumental decision right now. Yeah, because I have a whole, I don't think I've talked about this publicly. I have a whole new theory about hashgachah pratis that's been building up for a very long time, but it's not ready to give over publicly yet. But I could give it over now and stop the recording. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, it's in the stage where I need to talk it out. And I also don't want to record it because it could lend itself to misunderstanding that would be bad. And so I want to be there to be able to talk about it. So sorry, guys, on the recording.